Dr. Jordan Peterson has now been seen by over 10 million people. I'm curious how you feel about the reach of that interview and the reaction that it's clearly generated.
I really enjoyed the interview. He said afterwards he really enjoyed it as well. I think it was only once some of his followers got on board and sort of started having a go at me over various things in the interview that it kind of went a bit crazy. But I'm pretty happy with the interview, and he was too, so that's job done, really.
I know obviously Dr. Peterson has said that he'd like to have another discussion with you given the opportunity. Is that something that you would be excited about, or something that you'd be open to?
I haven't fixed a date for another interview. I wouldn't say never, but there's nothing in the diary. I think it is, obviously it's really important. I don't believe in sort of no platforming people. I believe in giving everybody a platform. I thought it was a really honest, open debate. You know, we had a half an hour of discussion. We had a to and fro over all sorts of different things, gender pay, you name it. I mean, was it the best interview I've ever done? Probably not, but I don't look back on it with my sort of head in my hands. I'm pretty happy with it, really.
I mean, specifically on the free speech issue, I think I guess the fundamental question that as a society we seem to be asking ourselves right now about whether or not free speech includes a right to offend. Obviously, I think you expressed a view in that interview. Is that one that you would stand by now?
God, I can't actually remember what I said on that in the interview, to be honest. But I mean, you know, I think freedom of speech is about, you know, having an open discussion with whoever wants to have that discussion. You know, I invited him into the studio. We had a pretty robust exchange of views. You know, that's the name of the game, really.
Curious at the time, were you aware of how often you used the phrase "so you're saying"?
Of course not. I mean, the whole point about the interview was that it was going to be cut down to a kind of 3-minute, 4-minute studio piece. When I watched it back, I was like, oh, I did say that rather a lot, didn't I? But I mean, you know, it's a live event. You know, I'm not a robot, I'm a human being. So, you know, you're bound to look back and think, oh, I could have done that a bit differently, couldn't I? But, you know, the meme's getting a bit tedious now, in my view, isn't it?
You can't fight the internet. And obviously, I mean...
You can fight the abuse, though. I mean, you know, getting death threats, a range of death threats and of all sorts of grisly natures, you know, relentless abuse. I mean, I just don't think that's called for, really.
Why do you think people have that instinct? Why does that happen?
I don't know. I find it pretty disappointing that there is so much hate out there on the internet. You'd have to ask them. I have no idea, but I think it is, you know, pretty dispiriting, the sort of torrent of abuse that you get. We're talking death threats. We're not talking just someone saying, I don't like that interview. People are entitled not to like the interview. They're not entitled to threaten me and my family.
I mean, on that point, obviously, I think critics have said that the extent to which we've discussed the reaction and the death threats has been a smokescreen or some way of sort of defending yourself from criticism. What would you say to people who posit those kinds of arguments?
No, I was pretty happy with the interview. You know, he was pretty happy with the interview. So I can't, you know, I can't understand this argument that we just put out a statement about abuse as a smokescreen, because the abuse existed, it was many and it was varied. You know, we are in touch with the police about it. I mean, I'm not going to say any more on that, to be honest.
My friend Jordan Peterson, who's really terrific, he was being interviewed on, I believe it was CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company, and he was asked by this interviewer about why he does not use the gendered pronouns that transgender people would appreciate. And this interview goes very, very poorly for the interviewer. I mean, this one goes under Peterson Destroys on YouTube. It's just hideous. Here we go.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. So and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Ha, gotcha.
Okay.